The question I actually deal with the other day, and I had a conversation with a parent, and I share his and her parents' frustration in regards to their child's performance. And trust me, man, coaches, we share the same thing that you do with your child when it comes to frustration, because it can be very frustrating when the player does not perform or they're continuously making the same mistakes over and over again. And the challenge that happens is, how do you deal with that? And what I have found as best practice is that you let the child make those mistakes and learn from them. And you know what? Unfortunately, it might take some time. It's not the best thing that happens in terms of their development, because of course we'd rather correct that instantly versus waiting for it to be corrected. However, you can't, kids are kids. They're going to make hundreds of mistakes every day. I make mistakes every single day as a coach and a trainer, educator, everything that goes with that. You make mistakes as parents every single day. So, you don't want to be berated when you make a mistake. And I've seen parents literally at practice talk to their kid during water breaks, as an example, or even during games or train. Like when I say games, I'm talking about like scrimmages or like pieces during training where they'll go up and talk to their kid. And what I have found is that is one of the worst things that you can do, because now you're stepping in when you have a coach. So the coach is losing his authority already, because you as the parent step in to try and make decisions and make changes to help their performance, which again, I understand. I want to help their performance, and any coach wants to help their performance. But what you guys are missing out on is the ability to actually influence the change. You are a parent. Your job is to support. Your job is to educate. Your job is to help them make better decisions, but you're not there to guide them. That's why you're paying somebody to do it, aka a coach. So my recommendation based on the best practices is this: when you go to training, drop your child off, let him enjoy the training with his coach. Obviously, like I've made the recommendation before, I cannot recommend an organization for you, but what I can do is say this, and my recommendation is always try to find a coach that cares about development. Like that's the priority here. So when you find a coach that cares about development, you should trust them to do the right thing for your child. Now, give them the full authority to work with your child. Let them do what they need to do, help train them, help educate them, help guide them. But if you're always stepping in, you don't give the coach the freedom to actually make those corrections. And then the child, and this is something that I learned and something I learned from my dad actually, and he said, if you want your child always coming to you for the rest of your life and looking for you to solve their problems, then keep doing what you're doing and basically holding their hand through everything. In real life, and you guys know this as parents, it's hard. Like it's not an easy process. You have to deal with tons of problems that happen every single day, and you have to solve those. And we're trying to create future leaders here in the world. Well, they might become professional athletes. They might become Division I athletes. They might become business owners. They might become people in society that want to be successful. And if people are going to be successful in society, they have to be able to solve problems. And if they can't solve problems, then they're not going to be successful in the longer term. So let's look at this from a key overview standpoint. This is my recommendation for you based on best practices. Your child has practice. You're taking him to practice. First recommendation, let him go to practice by himself or herself. Drop them off, let them go into training. That'd be the first thing. Second thing would be to, if you're going to go watch practice, stay far enough away that you don't have an influence on it. Again, best practices, especially if you're a parent that wants to open your mouth and provide, feedback or criticism or whatever. Let your child go through that process on their own with their coach, especially when you find one that that you trust. Okay, that would be the second recommendation. The third recommendation is when it comes to their actual performance, and let's say you saw a mistake, don't say or do anything. Let it happen. Don't bring it up. Let it be a part of the system and the problem, because again, they're going to make mistakes. Number 4, when they have water breaks, don't engage them. Just stay away. Let them go through the process of being at training, because you have to remember, this is their dream, not your dream. Okay? The next one would be when it's time to go home, ask them maybe 3 basic questions. Did you have fun today? Did you learn something, or what did you learn? And then 3, do you want to do this again? Okay, and I think those are things that will help you gauge, because then you're doing it as a supporting role. Or even if you want to change the last one because you don't think it's the best fit, fine. Then you could say, what do you want to do later? Or what do you want to eat? Like, just take it away from football and let them be a player. You be the parent, be the supporter that you're supposed to be, and let your child enjoy the process. And then, I've even had parents ask me like, hey, how should I handle it? Because I want to give them feedback. I don't recommend that you do that. You can, especially if you don't have the experience, because what I have seen happen is kids will go, well, you're just my mom or you're just my dad. Like, I want to listen to my coach. And what will happen is you will, kind of break the relationship with them. You don't want to be damaging your relationship with your child because you're trying to coach them. That's why you have a coach. So again, my recommendation is to take that process, one, but two, let them make decisions. Let them learn. That's what they're going through. Okay. Now, let's say you do want to give some feedback. I don't recommend it, but okay. Let's say you have video. Okay. And let's say your son plays goalkeeper. It's just an easy position to look at, right? So let's say you have film directly behind the goal and you want to help share, some ideas of how to help them improve because maybe you have some idea or whatever. Okay, fine. So this would be my recommendation if you want to do that. You would find the clips or the clips that that are positive and negative, and then you would reinforce the decision. So an example, let's say they make a good save, they did a good job, they parried the ball and they pushed it away and they got up fast. Tell them, hey, good job, I like what you did here. Cool, no problem. And then let's say there's something that you saw that is a problem. For example, again, another situation, they make the save, but they parry it back into the middle, into the danger zone. How can you handle that? Well, instead of telling them what was wrong, you can ask them, hey, little Johnny, what happened here? And what do you think you could do differently? And then you're putting it on them to actually answer the question. And then obviously that means they have to make a decision, but they're the one coming to the answer. Because if your child's coming to you and saying, Mom, Dad, I want to be a professional one day, but you're giving them all the answers, they will never learn how to develop into a player that can answer and solve problems on their own. And a great example would be this. If you look at the professional academies we have in this country, because we have our MLS academies that are professional, and they get to handpick their players. Well, most times, for like 90% of their teams, parents do not get to watch practice. The only thing they get to watch is the games. So you can't even watch what's going on in practice because they're trying to build that relationship between the staff, the players, and then the players within themselves. So, what should you be learning from that? From what I just told you is, if you're a parent and you can't go watch the practice, they don't want you there putting in input, obviously, one, but two, they want to have players that are self-sufficient and self-sustainable. They don't need mom and dad to solve their problems, because I don't know any professional players that rely on mom and dad to solve their problems when it comes to on-field performance or even off-field performance. Mom and dad might be able to make a recommendation as advice, but if you're solving all of your child's problems and they can't come up with solutions on their own, how can you expect them to be, one, a professional player, two, a Division I player, and three, let's look at this from a holistic approach, how do you expect them to be successful in life? They can't solve their own problems. You're solving their problems. So I hope that this video answers these types of questions and gives you a different framework, because this is what I have found from the players that have left my program or left training with me or whatever situation and gone on to find success. And I'll leave you with this last point because I think this is very, very important. So for 3 years, I had Roberto Carlos's nephew in my program. And it was very interesting because he came out one time for an event. So we had a 6-day event and he was there for 3 days. And if anybody would have the right to speak about player performance, it would be Roberto Carlos. I mean, this guy has won a World Cup, won basically everything in the game, probably the greatest left back of all time. And here we are. And do you want to know how he behaved during the games when his nephew was playing? And it's going to actually shock you because most parents are screaming and yelling the entire time. And again, if anybody would have the right to talk, it would be him. But do you know what he did? He just sat there smiling and clapping the entire game. This guy, Roberto Carlos, did not open his mouth one single time, even after the game, to provide criticism to the player. Now, I don't know what happened behind closed doors. I can't answer that, but I am sure that he did not speak at all unless his nephew came and asked for advice, which he probably did. Hey, what do you think I could have done here? Or they maybe looked at video or something. But the point is, Roberto Carlos, the whole time, is sitting there clapping, going like this, and smiling. And that was it. He didn't do anything else the entire time. Every single time that he watched his nephew play, and that was it. And that should be a lesson for parents, because if a guy that's literally won a World Cup with Brazil in 2002 does not speak to players during practice, during training, during the warm-up, whatever, then why would you have the right to do so when this guy has won a World Cup? And I'm not trying to say that you haven't done something successful in your life, fine, but this guy has won at the highest level in the world, and if anybody would have the right to speak, it would be him. And he's not speaking. He's letting the kids enjoy the game, enjoy the process, have fun, learn from their mistakes, learn from their failures, and be successful. And, you know, that's what's going to help players get there, and that's what they understand, people at that level. So that's my recommendation to you guys. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you in the next